So I am sitting here tonight. I got a question earlier from Stanson about what are macros. It's a big thing in the fitness industry right now in terms of it's a IIFYM and sometimes S, maybe. IIFYM. So that stands for if it fits your macros. And really what macros are, and it seems more complicated than it actually is. What macros are is proteins, fats, and carbs. They're macronutrients. So those are the things that are macronutrients. You have three. You could essentially, I suppose you could throw alcohol in there because what it is the things that make up calories. And the big hype about it is, and the whole if it fits your macros thing is you can get away with eating foods that are traditionally bad for you. So you've got people who think in terms of the if it fits your macros, and they'll eat a chocolate cake because it fits the amount of carbohydrates that they need for the day and fat that they need for the day, and then they'll balance that out by eating 3 chicken breasts. So that chocolate cake had carbs and fat in it, but it didn't have any protein. So now they got to even that out in terms of what percentage needs to come from each different macronutrient in terms of how many calories they eat per day. So then all of a sudden they'll eat 7 chicken breasts, so they'll get 200 grams of protein, but they also got to eat that chocolate cake. And people who go off the if it fits your macros kind of food and nutrition mindset brag about all the bad food that they eat. The problem that I have with this is that what they do is brag about all the bad food they eat, but they don't talk about the quality of those macronutrients. So you've got people eating, chocolate cake because there's, 75 grams of carbohydrates in a piece or 2 pieces, but they could also have a sweet potato or let's just call it a sweet potato and some broccoli and get 75 grams of carbohydrates. Now, both of them are 75 grams of carbohydrates, but which one do you think will help you in terms of health more? Right? They're both 75 grams of carbohydrates, but one of them is going to do some things internally, and the other one's going to do some things internally that is quite the opposite. Yes, in terms of just energy, they're the same thing, and that's where I think the misconception lies. But in terms of what they do to your body and provide a good amount of vitamins and some micronutrients, that sweet potato and the broccoli blow the chocolate cake away. So that's one of the faults, I think, in terms of the if it fits your macros way of thinking. But simply put, macros are macronutrients, which are protein, carbs, and fat. And people develop nutrition programs based on that. And they take, let's say you have a 2,500 calorie diet, 2,500 calorie nutrition program, and you're going to have, 50% is going to come from carbohydrates, 25% is going to come from protein, and 25% is going to come from fat. So with doing the math of it's 4 calories per gram of proteins and carbohydrates, so 50% come from carbohydrates in your 2,500, let's make it 2,000 just to make it easy. If 50% come from carbohydrates, you're going to eat 1,000 calories worth of carbohydrates a day. So that's 250 grams of carbohydrates, right? And then you have 25% of leftover, so then you have 25% and 25% fat and proteins. So the rest is coming from fat and proteins, so there's 1,000 calories left, so it's 500 from each. So if you have 500 calories of protein, then that's divided by 4, you have 125 grams of protein. I don't know if I checked my math in my head. But 125 grams of protein, and then you have 500 divided by 9 calories per gram of fat. So then you have somewhere around 70 grams of fat. And that's, sorry, not 70. 60. Let's hope. 50 something. So 50 something grams of fat. So you've got 250, 125, and 50 something. So 55. Whatever. Anyway, so that's how that works. So now with those numbers in mind, you can eat anything you want as long as it matches up to those numbers. So you could have some sort of crappy cereal for breakfast. You could have a couple donuts. You could have, lasagna at lunch, and you could have, some sort of chicken parmesan, and I don't know. But you can eat a bunch of crappy food as long as it fits your macros under this guideline. I don't agree with that because that's great, but in terms of actual health, you're going to be sitting at a deficit of some things that you really truly need if all you do is think about calories in food. So that's my take on macros, if it fits your macros, and what macros are. So just tried to get that out there. Kind of pay attention to actual food and not just macronutrients, because a scientist can make a calorie, and that's great, but is it going to do your body any good? So that's that. We'll see ya.